Good afternoon and welcome to the September 2nd meeting of the Rotary Club of Milledgeville. Please silence your phones as Brett Montroy comes up and leads us in our prayer pledge and four-way test.
Please bow your heads and pray with me. Almighty God, thank you for this day. Thank you for Rotary, time we have in fellowship with our fellow Rotarians and members of our community. Help us to live out the principles behind the four-way test and everything we do. And help us to realize the mission of Rotary to place service above self. Amen. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Join me in the four-way test. The things we think, say, or do. First,
is it true?
Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
and fifth.
Is it fun? Thank you, Brett. As you sit down, please remember to put some money into the blue cart fund bucket for Alzheimer's research. Last week, I'm sure we had $48 in the cart fund. Can I get maybe 4 people to do a $10 match? I'll start it off. I'll do it. Jeff Gray, Jimmy Eubanks, and Lynn Chandler. All right. Thank y'all so much. William's not here. Do we have anyone to add to the prayer list? Okay. If not, one correction I want to make to the bulletin. We had down that's on September 23rd that we were going to have Rebecca Snyder come back. Actually, our district governor is going to be here that day, and we'll be doing that program for us. So we'll get that updated on the bulletin, and Rebecca will be coming at another date. Are there any other announcements?
Yes. Hi, everybody. And what my buddy is, my partner in crime, Lynn Chandler. There he is. We always have had a Thanksgiving basket fundraiser, and we have been able to support about 75 families this year. Last year, we did not do it because of COVID. And although we're still in the middle of a pandemic, we would like to try it this year. But it depends on all of us to raise the money in order to provide a Thanksgiving meal to at least 75 families. And Lynn Chandler is the one that usually takes the lead and coordinates it. But we thought about $50 based on the prices of food. You were thinking it would cost, Mr. Chandler?
Probably gonna be up a little bit, I'm not sure how much, but everything's going up, so probably $65.
Okay, so we are going to be, the next time we meet, we're going to pass a sign-up sheet around and asking you to please consider sponsoring a family and donating whatever amount we arrive to, maybe 65 instead of 50, and then show that our Rotary Club cares and we're about giving back to our community. So
Thank you, Dr. Price. Any other announcements? All right, if not, Greg Buckley, can you come up and announce our visitors, and let's do our 50-50 raffle, Brian.
All right. I believe we just have one visitor, Dr. Steve Greer, with us today. All right. I'm going to ask you to do the drawing. All righty. Okay, ticket ending in 050.
I don't have one this week, so it's not me.
You remember where I put the twin
I
marks?
do. I remember you telling me.
That's how it worked out.
How'd you say you had it marked?
That was close.
Close.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Greg. And normally Aaron would come up and introduce our speaker, but I've known this guy for a little while. So I figured I would do the introduction. Mike Livingston's our speaker today. I've known Mike for about a decade now, through a shared love of cycling. He's here to talk to you about cybersecurity, but I want to kind of give you a little background about the guy. I met him first because he was a sponsor for the Georgia Cycling League. Dr. Greer, you know, that's the league that we have a GMC prep team. We have Old Capital as a team. And on the side, Mike owns a bike company. He makes road bikes, mountain bikes, or he outsources the manufacturing of those, and then he builds them. And he had, you know, through his sponsorship, he was making bikes, high-end bikes available to any of the kids that needed it at a really reasonable price. And where we really first got to be friends, I had a young man on my team here from Milledgeville, lived in Graham Homes, along with his quadruplet sisters and his one other brother. So 6 of them and a mother, single income, living, they had no money. And he was riding an old beat up bike, but was competitive. And literally his equipment was holding him back from what we had hoped would be, you know, a collegiate career in cycling. So I went to Mike and said, hey, Mike, what can we do? And he didn't have any bikes available, but he gave his bike, his personal bike that he rode, he gave it to this kid to use for the season. That was when I knew this is a stand-up guy. Didn't even know he was in IT at the time, to be honest. It was several years later that we were talking about some things, and I found out he was in IT. And just this year, I had an opportunity to bring him on to our team here with Responsive Technology Partners to head up our cybersecurity division. And he's done a phenomenal job helping us grow that practice and helping us focus internally on all things cybersecurity. So with that, Mike.
Thanks, Tom, for introduction. And yeah, unfortunately, my day is spent talking about cybersecurity. As Tom's mentioned, you know, Responsive has now grown a bit. So not only in Milledgeville here, I live up in Atlanta, so I come down from Atlanta, but Virginia, Florida, North Carolina as well. And that's enough about us. So everyone knows, you know, cybersecurity has just exploded these last few years. Everyone knows it because of all the bad stuff. But mostly cybersecurity is protecting what's most important. Your data, your identity. And the growth in the marketplace is just insane. So 2018 till now, you know, 230 billion globally is spent on cyber. Mostly, as you see, it's spent on endpoint security, which is your desktops, your phones, your servers, cloud security. You know, that's like Amazon, anything that's in the cloud. So just phenomenal. And one of the main issues with cyber is because it's exploded that you have so many options. This is an older slide I wanted to include because, you know, about 10 years ago, there's about 300 cybersecurity companies. 10 years after that, there was over 1,000. And today you have about 5,000 new companies with new issues, concerns, struggles within the organization, trying to help people secure their data. So just phenomenal growth. Which really is interesting. I mean, in the news, you hear about all the big companies and then, you know, having some kind of ransomware, having an issue. But the untold story is people like you and I, and the small companies, they're really take a hit here. And what's even more interesting is most of these compromises are from organizations within the US taking advantage of US citizens. Even more so, it's coming from the same state that if you have a compromise, it happens within the same state. In most cases, in the same city. Which is a pretty interesting stat because you always hear about, you know, China's attacking us, Russia's attacking us. And on the large scale, it's true, because it's like a lot of work, some really insane hacks, but for most compromises, it's local people victimizing local people. And what we hear about all the time, right, is ransomware. What is ransomware? Ransomware is just like, I spent most of my career traveling the world in the auto industry. And when I traveled, I had kidnapped and ransom insurance. Crazy. And pretty much that's what ransomware is. Ransomware is bad entities taking advantage. They get onto your corporate network or personal network, and then they encrypt whatever is important and go, you want it back? There's a price to pay. This year, the largest paid ransom is $100 million. CNA insurance. Just insanity that that much is paid out. In Georgia, we've had some huge attacks. City of Atlanta. Most recent one, right, is the gas line being brought down. So it's just bad people doing bad things. Which is a crazy stat here for everyone to realize is this is happening every 14 seconds throughout our country. So some type of bad entity is going, and I think I can take advantage of that some way, somehow. Again, the easiest to hit, you have a lot of healthcare. You see in Georgia, we've just had some couple hospitals get hit. Financial institutions is a huge market. Anywhere where considered a large data repository of information has value. And so they become inevitable. We've done a lot of work with law firms and healthcare institutions because of that. I think kind of the elephant in the room outside of ransomware is phishing attacks. And phishing attacks is easy because someone shoots you emails and everyone gets a million emails and you just click on it and it looks like it's coming from somebody it's asking for information. You see a lot of compromises that get paid out, and even more so it's paid out via this, where you have a business email compromise where a bad entity will kind of jump into a conversation, and then all of a sudden you're making a fake payment on an invoice that's in the same process, in the same conversation. They have enough skill to say, I'm going to change an account number by one number, and you're never going to notice. And you get approval, it's paid out, and it's gone. Or you get an email, which we see quite often is, within an HR conversation, hey, we need some gift cards sent out. We need sent out like right away. And then, thousands of dollars get sent away because, you're giving to a charity or, sending it out for employees. So we have to be really careful. And, some of the stuff we do is responsive is around education, having a dialogue around this is the things to look out for. And a lot of times you can put all the technology in place, but still humans and people, right? We have to read the emails. We have to make good choices around maybe I shouldn't be giving out certain information via email. So just things to think of is the emails and whatnot, they look funny. And always ask if it's internal emails, they're asking for information that usually it's like, why would they be asking this? Just go to the source and ask. We've been able, locally, we just had some local businesses, right, ask that question and it saved them a lot of money. It's like, you know, they're having a conversation and it looked off candor. They called the person who sent it and they're like, we never sent that. And it was like, and size will transfer a lot of that. Because it was a normal conversation, normal discussion with someone he usually talks to. It's really important to kind of have heightened sentences when you're dealing with this kind of attack. And some of the problems around this as well, you know, you ask, you know, all these big companies, they have all these big budgets, small companies, you know, they know, they're aware of this stuff. Because the whole, the industries really don't have huge penalties for not taking care of your cyber and being responsible. You see that with, you know, Facebook, Amazon, LinkedIn, you know, they've been all compromised this year. Millions of records, craziness lost. There's really no, you know, government entity that says you need to be at this point, and then you're going to get fined. If you're trying to work with that, you know, with some of the compliance with HIPAA, which is around all your personal information and medical, but it's no large fund. So if you're a big company of deep pockets, and you answer to your board, you want to make money for them, you don't spend money over here. So if records get stolen, you know, we all have had it. We get the letter in the mail, you've been compromised. You got your credit protect for 3 years free. That really doesn't do much. So what's happening, you saw this year with the executive order from the president, is, you know, he's starting to have some strict guidelines for companies, especially companies that deal with the federal government, that they have to have strict protocols, strict controls in place, or one, you're not going to get any government business, and the fines are getting larger, which is really important. So if you have a big company with deep pockets, if it's a percentage of their revenue, then you kind of perk up. If it's, you know, $1 million fine, $10 million fine, you know, that's okay. Here we go. Next. But we're pretty excited. You know, this is, I think this is going to be pushed down throughout the business world, which, you know, has strict guidelines around maturity, around your data, how data is protected. So we're pretty excited about this. Like I said, there's been some other compliance stuff where you have, you know, you check the box and then you get your stamp. But in most cases, that's just checking the box. I mean, I've run large infrastructure, and when the auditors came in, unfortunately, you had your smartest engineer in the room with the auditor, and he could speak to what the auditor was at. And that really wasn't security. And so the bad guys know this. So they know companies that have to have high level of compliance doesn't always mean they're secure. So when we go in, when we talk to clients, and we kind of articulate that. Secure your data first, apply second, and one will get you down the road to the other. So it's really important.
Excuse me. Can I soapbox for 1 second? When Target loses your data and you have to give your credit card at the bank, it's not the bank's fault. We didn't have anything to do with Target losing your data. We just have to give you a new debit card. Because I've had customers just get angry. This is the 4th time this year y'all have sent me a new debit card. I'm sorry. Don't shop it. You know,
I mean, that's that's actually great, right? I mean, in most cases, a guy had a debit card compromised this year, right? And you get a new debit card number. I'm like, I memorized my debit card number. This is that good.
by the way, we have to pay for the cards, not Target.
Exactly. So we wanted to kind of keep this kind of high level for everybody, but kind of common sense here, right, dictates that companies need to spend their money wiser on their cybersecurity initiatives. And every company is different, so there's no one model that fits everybody, right? It's really important that you know, especially small businesses, you understand what's important, what's the secret sauce that keeps you going. You know, if it's a formula, it's your client data, you need to understand where it is, and then you can really have a true discussion on how to protect it and why you need to protect it. And that takes time. So a lot of times we go in and we do a lot of data discovery, and they'll have this data all over. And they're like, no, all my data is here. It's like, no, it's all over here. So you can put controls in one place and not necessarily protect everything that needs to be protected. And at the end of the day, 85% of all our compromises come out of email, some kind of phishing attack, and access. So when your company's asking you for have multi-factor everywhere. It's just it can be an inconvenience, but at the end of the day, the inconvenience is the data gets lost, you get compromised, and then you're like calling the bank, looking at the bank.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
So, several years ago, when Admiral Rogers, a buddy of mine, when he was running the NSA, and Bill Mayville was supposed to take over the NSA, I was with them, and they told me, and this might have been 5 or 6 years ago, they told me the internet could be fixed.
You fix?
It could be fixed. And they said, they ran cyber for the NSA. They said it could be fixed, but it's got to come from a combination of the government and industry. And we can't get industry, government could not get industry, companies like Microsoft, Apple, and other to cough up the money that was needed to actually fix it. And so we wouldn't have all these problems.
Well,
So I don't know enough about it to speak, but my question is, how?
a lot of it is companies owning what they do. So the Microsofts of the world, right? Every day you see some type of vulnerability that comes out. That's been there from day one. It's not something new. But it makes no sense, costs too much money, even though they, have millions of dollars offshore, right? So they could spend the money, but at the end of the day, why? There's no crazy penalties. We're holding to those applications.
So let me change this. In the same conversation, they made the comment to me that they said communication, local communication, only 5% of it's done in space. They said 95% is done in cables underneath the ocean. And I made a comment because we were having a conversation about terrorism. And I said, well, how the heck is, let's say, the Taliban, Al Qaeda going to get to the cables? And they looked at me and they said, Jack, it's not them, it's China and it's Russia. And they can get to the cables, and they are getting to our cables.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, they left it open for a reason.
They left it open for a reason.
Yeah, because it creates industry. I say this. Now, I'm a third generation auto engineer. They can build a car that lasts forever, but what's the point of that? Why fix it? Because you gotta fix it once. It's like Apple, right? Apple took out the audio port, right? Now they can sell you something else. They plug it in, so you get that audio port. I think in many ways, the industry is like that. The big companies, they rush out something, with security in the second one. In application development, they had many theories about it, and then they came out with something called, this is a crazy thought, when developing something around an application is let's have security within that mindset. We call it SecDevOps, security development operations. Well, that lasted about 2 years. The developers were like, that's too much hassle. Think about security when I'm coding, which allows all these vulnerabilities within applications. So I'd agree. I mean, a lot of it is laziness within organizations. The big companies push it out. It's cheaper on scale to pay on the back end. Unfortunately, in my own personal, boy. Unfortunately, though, but I could have that same conversation, right? We go in with our clients, right, and we have those difficult conversations around, unfortunately, this is where we're at. This is where you need to get to, right? And how do we do this in an economic way that you protect yourself? And again, a lot of that is a combination of putting in the right tools, having the right resources to run those tools, because everything's about patching. If the tool is unpatched, it becomes a vulnerability. It's a vicious circle, right?
It's not just business, it's national security risk in addition to business.
Yeah. Same thing with our people. If we don't train our people, we don't give them the tools to do their job, then that becomes a liability as well. Next thing here, having, we don't want our government telling us how to do a lot of things, right? But they can do things at scale. So putting in a maturity certification for companies is a great start. We need to continue kind of laying a foundation. Here's where you need to be. And this is how you get there. Because our conversations with people is like, they go in and go, I can't do all of this. And it's like, it's okay. Let's get you, let's mature the program in time, put the right security control conversations in place. I always put in, the doom and gloom of all the data breaches, very disheartening, right? The banks hate it, everyone hates it. But in most cases, right, like we just talked about, it really comes down to, protecting your identity and protecting what's important and how you do it.
How threatened do you think nonprofits
I would say very much. Nonprofits don't have a lot of funds. But I mean, with so many companies out there now around cyber, there's some easy steps that don't take a ton of money, right? With me coming on board with Tom, we've been able to look at some companies that improve our offerings to our clients, and it's not a huge thing. Everyone thinks it costs so much. The cost is in the scale. So if you're a small company, for a smaller scale. If you're looking at, one of our clients is a huge non-regulated utility in Texas, and the scale is huge because this is the scale. So everything they look at, it's for 10,000 employees, it's for critical infrastructure. So you have to be more mindful of what you're doing because of what's being. That's all I got. Any other questions or?
I'll throw in one of the things we hear a lot, you maybe think about it with the nonprofit, it's, I'm just a little company and I don't have anything about it, right? A lot of times when we see these compromises, it's not necessarily about disrupting your business, but think about who your donors are, who you got in your database. If you're a CPA, who do you do business with? What records do you have with theirs that could then be used as a launching point to get into someone else. So it's not always about a small company, it's about a lot of times the downstream, and they're looking for these trails and how they get.
Many of the large breaches of supply chain. The target came through their HVAC. The HVAC company had access remotely to the HVAC system. They didn't have the network separated. So they jumped from the HVAC to the network. Because they didn't have separation of duty. And a lot of companies are set up where they're flat. So as soon as you can get on, you know, someone's at Starbucks, never go on Starbucks Wi-Fi, by the way. It's not secure. Because it's crazy. How much information gets pulled out of the Starbucks network? But there you go. We appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Now that we've scared everybody to death with all the cyber attacks that are happening. Next week, we've got Holly Croft with the DAR coming to speak. And any other announcements or anything before we go?
Just make sure everybody signed in, because even last week, I knew that some people were here that did not sign in, but I gave you credit. So please remember to sign in.
Yeah, if you did not sign in, make sure to stop by and see Kristen back in the back, and want to make sure everybody gets those perfect attendance.
Yeah.
All right, well, with that, we're dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
This I'm missing. I still haven't gotten the Zoom link. What?
I sent it back out again. Do you have the original one that I sent?
I don't think I've ever gotten one from you. The last one I got, I think, was from.
You were on. Do you have a card with you, Terry? Or
No, but I can.
here, I'll give you mine, and you can just shoot me an email or a text with your email, so I make sure I'm getting to the one that's.
Safe travels. Will you text me people who are on Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting it for me? The Zoom people?
Well, yeah, if you'll get it for me and email me or text me, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm just Jack.
They've all.
Just have it sometimes. Not real.
I'll have to get it when I get back.